Okay, Iron Cross, man-to-man combat, East Front, 1941-42. This is Scenario 3, Closing the Ring. I was, my last recording got interrupted, so I'll pick up where I left off. Yeah, actually, I did this wrong, but as I said before, I'm not going to go back and change anything. I guess when I declared the opportunity to fire and then failed the observation, I think I was still supposed to fire. Yeah, I don't see why I was not supposed to go ahead and fire, because it was declared. Okay, alright, so where was I? So that was wrong, basically. Yeah, here we go. So, okay, so pick up again with the defensive, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, defensive fire phase. So the non-phasing player may attempt to fire any of his normal status units. Units that performed reaction movement and or opportunity fire may not fire. Right. Which is why... Right. Right. Okay. Oh, this game is so awesome. Oh, I forgot to do the observation thing. Anyways, yeah, because the prior movement phase. So there's so much going on. So this is the fifth. This is the fifth phase, the defensive fire phase. Now we're talking about, you go back one phase to the reaction movement phase. That's when the non-phasing player, the Soviets, could have attempted. No, there's so much. Right, yeah. So the Soviets moved, allowing the Germans to conduct opportunity fire. Right, and the Germans are the phasing player. But the Soviets, the non-phasing player side, could have conducted opportunity fire in the phase before that, which was the movement phase, which was the German movement phase. So basically what I'm saying is, now we get to the fifth phase of the player turn, and it's possible that the Germans fired, which was opportunity fire in reaction to the non-phasing player's reaction movement, as well as the Soviets could have fired opportunity fire against the Germans in their normal movement phase. Yes, and so actually at this point both sides could have moved. The Germans were moving in their movement phase with their full movement allowance. The Soviets were moving in their reaction movement phase with the reduced movement allowance per the chart. Oh yeah, just so much. Okay, what I wanted to say about the observation is that I went through the whole calculation and everything, because the bottom line or the upshot is, and now I am going to get off on a little bit of game design here. I went through that because the end result was very realistic, and I have no problem using that term. I'm not, I've talked about this before. Realistic has a meaning. It has a usable meaning. Not everybody may agree with it, but so be it. There's a definition for realistic, and it's a usable term. So it was realistic. Of course, you can talk about degree of realism. Yes, realism is a real word as well. So useful word. So it was all very realistic. Now, what was the calculations getting at? Calculations were getting at the fact that so far in the turn, the machine gun team had moved up, and the Soviets had moved over here on the hill here. So both units had already moved at the point that we got to the reaction movement phase. Not to mention the intervening terrain, not to mention the fact that there's obscuring terrain in both the observer's hex and the target's hex. Not to mention the distance. Yeah, all these factors, not to mention the posture of the units being observed, they're down. All of these bear on the chances of observing, making, in fact, it very, very unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. As a matter of fact, I think I'm trying to do a quick calculation in my head. I think Well, yeah, it's very, very low percentage chance that the Germans were going to observe the Soviets in that case, which is very believable. So what I'm getting at is that I want that, I like that, I absolutely, accept it wholeheartedly, because what I don't want are at least two other ways of handling this, right? So one way is to say the chance is so low, and look, it is low. I mean, we're rolling on 2 dice. Okay, we're rolling on 2d6. Just look up the percentages for the different dice results, and okay, it's really a small percentage chance that the Germans are going to observe the Soviets in that case. By the way, I'm discounting the fact, I'm not sure I actually finished the calculation, so yes, I am leaving open the possibility that with the modifiers it was actually impossible. I'm leaving open the possibility that it was impossible for the Germans to get a positive result, i.e. the final modifier might have been +8, in which case if the Germans needed a 9 or less, and the final modifier was +8, then I guess it was impossible for them to observe. I'm leaving open that possibility, but that's not set that aside. Let's just talk about the principle here. The principle is, even when there's a very low percentage chance, I want that played out. I want that process. What I don't want is the designer to say, oh, there's such a low percentage, we're just going to make it impossible. So a game designer might say, if both the observer and the target have moved in the, so far in the turn or something like that, there's no observation at all, period. Or the flip side, the designer says, maybe, and I know I'm presuming a lot here, but okay, maybe I'm presuming a designer says, oh, I want my game to be fun, I want there to be lots of excitement, so I'm going to say that the Germans can automatically observe the Soviets in this case, which is, again, when I went through the examples, it's not realistic. It's just not. So maybe a designer says, no, regardless of time factors, regardless of distance factors, regardless of circumstantial factors, regardless of all that, nope, we're going to let the Germans, or in this case, we're going to let the phasing player, automatically, observe and conduct observed fire against the moving Soviets in this case. I don't want those types of, I just don't want those types of simplifications, designed for effect, if you want to call it. I'm not saying that it is designed for effect, but maybe it is. In any case, I don't want it, not interested in it. I much prefer this approach. Okay, lots of more, it involves many more calculations, more dice rolling, lots of, modifier calculations. But I just want it because at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, that feels good. That feels good. That, yeah, the outcome feels good, and I know how it was arrived at, or at least I have a gist of how it was arrived at. Okay, so we're talking about the defensive fire phase. The non-phasing player may attempt fire. I already thought about the different Soviet positions here and who they can see and how, and I decided that the Soviets would not conduct defensive fire phase, not conduct defensive fire. But let me make sure I don't miss anything else. No. Okay. So then let's go on to the 6th phase. Flip over my little reminder marker. So now we're on the 6th phase, which is the moving fire phase. Now this is a possibility, okay? So the moving fire for the phasing player, Germans, may attempt to fire any of his normal status units. They're all normal status. Normal status means not pinned and not suppressed. As far as I can tell, that's normal. Units that have already fired in this player turn may not fire. By the way, no. I said I wasn't going to redo that. So we'll consider the medium machine gun as having not fired.